Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have what again? We are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard. On those of you that are already on YouTube, please go ahead. Give me that thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. I need that thumbs up. Let's get that algorithm going, folks. Don't also forget, go to politicsdoneright.com/store. Get some of these nice new t-shirts that we got going there. We even have some with the squad on, all that good stuff, folks. Get busy. We're going to have a great show for you today. Anyhow, today is one of our fellows' birthday. And he said, I'll see you on, I guess, I don't know, either Friday or Monday because it's his birthday today. I said, show up so I can sing happy birthday or something for you, Michael Rodnan. Where are you? You normally have a few words in there for me so I can know that you're here and say, happy birthday to Michael Rodnan. But anyhow, you know what? Anybody else's birthday today? If it's anybody else's birthday today, put something out there in the chat. The chat is kind of empty right now. We still have a few people who, they like to listen, but they don't like to chat. And you know what drives this show? What drives this show is when the more you chat, the more the show is driven. But you know I don't need the chat to drive the show because I have always, because of the current state of our body politic, there is always so much to talk about. And today, putting it in not colloquial English, today ain't no different. And we're gonna talk. Well, first person in the feed today is El Señor Tom C. Tom C, welcome to Politics Done Right as usual. Then, of course, Deb Denny says, hello, Egberto and Ashley. Thank you for calling out our beautiful Ashley, Mademoiselle Denny. Eric Hay, Beethage, and Mike, Cap, and Veg. What is it, VEG? Are we talking vegetables or are we talking something else? I don't know. You got to help me out there. Anyway, let's see. How many books behind you are going to be banned? Hey, man. That's a good question, right? Texas seemed to be banning books left and right. You know, what can I say? Bruce Pollard says, let's call it different ethnic cultures. You know, exactly, Bruce. That's what it's all about. You know, when we all started in Africa, and when we migrated up top, and we didn't need all this melanin. You know, the folks who didn't need all the melanin, the natural selection got rid of it for probably particular reasons, etc. You know, I mean, all kind of things. Daniel Ledo says he's here with us. I'll talk about what he has to say. Anyway, Tom C says, snowbound in Michigan. Where is everybody? They're here. I mean, they're there on YouTube and Facebook Live. But, you know, I want them to give me some thumbs up too. What happens, Michael, is El Señor Rodnan always has so much to say in the beginning. You know, he just kind of throws the thing out, and without him there to wish him a happy birthday, well, we're a little bit behind in our verbiage on the chat room. Anyhow, Tom C says snowboarding in Michigan. You know, I spoke to my wife this morning. She's in Houston, and it turns out that it's freezing. So she's doing all kind of stuff that I would normally have to do, wrap the pipes, all that good stuff, flow the water. Because, you know, back in Texas, we're not sure, and especially in the Houston area, we're not usually used to that kind of stuff. But luckily, we have wonderful neighbors, wonderful people who are always there to help out. Deb Denny, already, I saluted you. Deb. Eric says, any comments? Lockdown ineffective and basically ruined American lives. Not true. You know, I love when people look at studies and don't interpret exactly what the study says. The study said, on point 2, less people died than if we didn't have the put down, if we didn't stop or had the lockdown. First of all, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Let's say that that study is correct, that the lockdown only saved 0.2% of the people's lives. Let's say that's the case. And knowing my brother, Eric Hayes, that you are a pretty conservative guy that calls himself a pro-lifer, you believe in life. Every life is valuable. Then it seems to me like you wouldn't come out and say, well, if we can save one life, then we need to do it. I think what you've just proven by that statement, and tell me if I'm wrong or misunderstanding you, is that there is a cost relationship to human life, and that if it's only going to save 0.2% of the people, just maybe it's okay to let them die. Well, I mean, the truth of the matter of, I don't want to play goody two-shoe here. We make that determination every day. The reason we don't drive a car at 5 miles an hour and we allow cars to be driven at 100 miles an hour or whatever, knowing that there are a lot of things driving at 100 miles will do. If you have a blowout, then the car becomes a missile. If you have there are a lot of things that we make trade-offs because it doesn't kill a lot or whatever. And the truth of the matter, Eric Hayes, is if society had known that whether you have a lockdown or not, 0.2% of the people would more die or not. And I just can't, when you sent me the link, I just scanned it, so I didn't look at it in detail. But just knowing how diseases work, right? Here are some interesting things that you should ask yourself. Number one, how much less viruses went out there because of the pandemic? I mean, because of the lockdown. Likely quite a few. So I am not going to mix up what they talk about between deaths and also things known as long COVID and all these other factors. Okay, I find it hard to believe personally, and again, I haven't read the article in detail, that if everybody stays home, that somehow you only reduce deaths by 0.2%. I find it hard to believe. So I'm going to read the study. It's not fair for me to comment or criticize you or on what you're saying until I read the article in detail. But thank you for bringing that, and I will go ahead when I get the time to read that article better than I have thus far. Here is reality. Thousands of paying respect to those who suffered ultimately for protecting you and me. And look at this unrealistic and disrespectful thing Susan, the woke, famous, rich person, writes. Susan Sarandon, what did she say? Look, instead of giving me the link, just put a phrase in there. Let me know what she said. I don't know what she said. Bruce says, let's call it all different ethnic cultures. Daniel Ledo says, Scandinavian countries are going back to normal. Seems there is a benefit to socialism. Actually, though, you may laugh when you write that statement, but all the Scandinavian countries have a much higher happy index than the United States. Actually, the United States happy index is pretty low. It's, for a lot of people, they consider living in the United States miserable. Those of the bottom 80% or so, right? Because, it's almost like they simply live to work. And if you're living to work, you're nothing more than an indentured servant or a slave, right? And a lot of people are, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, that means you live to work, and that's how it goes, right? All right, Eric Hayes says it was a John Hopkins study. Yeah, I know. Look, I'm not going to deny the study, and I'm going to read the study from a scientific perspective. And like I said on this show all of the time, Eric, if we are proven wrong for something, what we do is we go ahead and fix it. But I think what would have been wrong is for there to be this flood of disease coming out there that is airborne, and for us to say just run everything as normal. It doesn't make any sense to do that when you don't know, right? Bruce Pollard said, too many overweight people in the US. That is very true. Most of the people who die from COVID actually are overweight. The truth of the matter is that is one of the comorbidities of the disease. Mike Capved says, when I was young, I always heard about how we all came together in World War II. I always thought we would do that again and do whatever we could to battle the war on the virus. But, there's a certain evil that emanated from, and I think it's been growing, right? But Trump just put it on steroids. Trump just showed that there wasn't much of a penalty to pay for just being obnoxiously rude, racist, sexist, homophobic, and what's that word? When the word that you use for people who don't like foreigners. Cannot remember it right now, but you know what I'm talking about. Uh, what is it? Xenophobe. Thank you very much. My daughter just corrected me. Xenophobe. So I mean, it is amazing, right? That Trump made all of that okay, even if as people thought those things, they never articulated it because they didn't know how it would look to the other people, right? The thing that still amazes me, and I don't get it, and I ask a lot of people this all the time, right? I always talk about Donald Trump getting more votes in the second election, more so than Hillary. And had we progressives not gone out there and busted our butts to maximize the amount of people we could get for that election in 2020, he would have won. Not only the electoral college, but he would have won the popular vote. If we had just sat down on our laurels and said, you know what, we just need to bring in Hillary Clinton numbers, he would have won because he beat Hillary Clinton numbers. So my question was, are there that many Americans who are willing to abandon their values, who are willing to abandon their morals to support a guy like Trump? It behooved me. And we know that we know that Republicans in general, just rank and file Republicans, they got more votes than Trump, which says that there were enough people who hated Trump but were true conservative, good Republicans who said, I can't stomach this guy, but I'm bringing in my peeps. My rank and file Republicans are getting elected. But there are some people who, and then you really sit down and wonder, how could you do it? What was going through your mind when you voted for the degeneracy of the country, when you voted for somebody who was willing to overturn an election? I mean, to this day, it's not only myself, it is the people around the world, the rest of the world that has lost so much faith. They lost faith in America the first time, but they at least said, but Hillary won the popular vote. That's undemocratic nature of the American system that has allowed a Trump to survive. But the people are okay. But the second time around, that Donald Trump got more votes. And not only that, than Hillary got the first time, 70 million Americans said, you know what? We can stomach Trump. It's a lot of atoning we got to do as a society. A lot of atoning. All right, going by your terms as numbers, my friend, you do it with criminals. You should ask the same question. You can't compare criminality with health. Two different modals, completely two different modals. Eric Hayes says, lockdown ruined led economy, led to more suicides, kids out of school. Look, I don't know what led to suicides or whatever, but one thing I know is that by keeping my butt at home, I protected myself. By my daughter keeping her butt at home, by my wife keeping her butt at home and getting the vaccine when it was available so that she could do her job, etc. We know from on a family unit, we saved ourselves. And every family unit that did that, likely the same. So we need to examine the data, but we need to make sure that the data was coming from, again, responsible data. Eric Hayes says, Susan quote, so if all these cops weren't needed for crime that day, doesn't that mean they aren't needed any day? Just listening to that quote there, right? That's a logical quote. And this is not anti-police or anything like that. You just have to ask the question. If there are enough cops on the beat, when you have a hell of a lot of cops on hiatus, just maybe you don't need that hell of a lot of cops and you could put that money into things like psychology and better policing in communities. There's nothing wrong with that sentence. Only if you are a troglodyte would you see that, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the person who gave you the quote, who highlighted the quote for you, Eric. Only you would you say, no, I think that's a logical conclusion. If you can have that many cops doing desk duty, then you could have, instead of putting that money into a high-paid cop, get a high-paid social worker, a high-paid, all these guys to work into the communities to mitigate crimes before a gun is used, or a gun by a cop is used, or before a gun by a criminal is used. And at the same time, maybe we could put some money into destroying the NRA, who is responsible for a lot of the gun violence in this country right now. West says, Biden sends in soy boys and trans to UK. I don't know what that means, but anyhow. Peggy Lopez, welcome my dear sister. Peggy Lopez says, hi all, again in 1970, Sociology of Leisure class stated, as technology lessens the needs for workers, 2 ways to support population. 1, guaranteed income. 2, let people die. We are in number 2 as GOP policy. I agree with that 100%. When we got the equivalent of production increases, what we call what is the word? When we got efficiency, more efficiency, when technology improved, all of that, right? There's a word for it. What is the word? It's not efficient. Help me out, my geniuses. Productivity. When we got increased productivity, what should have really happened is the work week should have dropped. Folks, if you're on YouTube, please go ahead and give us that thumbs up. If you are on Facebook Live, please go ahead and give us that like. If you're on Twitter, please remember to follow politics or follow Egberto Willies. But anyway, folks, as I said, right? As we got more productivity, what we should have had is people with a lower, we should have a work week that was decreased. In other words, instead of a 40-hour work week, maybe a 30-hour work week, and more people employed, right? And it's amazing to me that the people who support life and believe in family values haven't said that the spoils coming from productivity shouldn't be going to shareholders, but it should be going to making a better society. It always baffled the mind that you can be pro-life, pro-family, and at the same time, pro-corporate destruction of the family. It always behooved me. Eric Hayes says, more Susan stuff Tuesday. Oscar-winning actress Susan Sarandon sparked rage on social media after she mocked the massive funeral procession along New York's Fifth Avenue for slain New York officer Jerry Rivera, 22, by tweeting, I'm going to tell my kids this is what fascism looked like. That is a stupid comment by Susan Sarandon. That is a stupid comment by Susan Sarandon if she's saying that about a slain police officer, right? And it's not about it being a slain police officer. It's being a slain innocent person. Somebody who was murdered innocently and people coming to pay respects. That is a stupid comment, and I don't use those words often in my narrative, but there is no room for that kind of a statement on this young 22-year-old kid. That could have been her kid. 22-year-old cop. That cop said he joined the force. I remember I read this, and this was really what I wanted to see more people joining the police force saying. He said, I wanted to join the force to mitigate the friction between the community and the police. His heart was in the right place. He is the kind of police officer that we want. He's the kind of police officer that we don't want to see getting hurt. Those thugs like the guy who had his neck on George Floyd, whatever his name was, I can't even take it out of my mind. That guy who has that thug that called himself a cop, who had his neck, his boot on the neck of George Floyd. That's the kind of cop we should care nothing about. But Jason Rivera, he said, I am joining this force because I want to fix the friction between the cops and the community. Deb Dennis says, freedom comes with responsibilities and communal sacrifice. Protecting ourselves and others should be our highest priorities, not protesting inconveniences. This is the most selfish generation in history. Yeah, unfortunately, Deb, it has a lot to do, and a lot of people take exception to this with boomers. A lot of the problems that we are having right now, created by our generation. A lot of my generation take exception to that. I'm talking about the older Gen X's and the younger boomers, you know. They take exception when I said, I'm like, look, we didn't left the best society from our millennials. We didn't left the best society for them. Daniel Ledo says, notice how Abbott takes the opportunity to bash America while at the same time fail to address the crux of my comment, that the countries he thinks are so awesome are dropping all COVID restrictions. How about we follow their lead? You know what else those countries did? Those countries have Medicare for all. In other words, healthcare for all. So that if you get sick, you didn't have to think twice for going to that doctor very early on. If we had that kind of policy in the United States, Brother Ledo, I would say maybe, yes, go ahead, do that. Those countries also, when they instituted vaccine, except for I think it was Sweden, when they instituted vaccine, the people took it. When they decided to have lockdowns, you didn't see fights in the streets. When they decided to put masks on to save your fellow brother and sister, they didn't say, oh, we are so selfish, we are not going to help others. So our Scandinavian countries had one thing in common: socialization of their communities. In other words, they believed that I am my brother's keepers. But what you want us to say is, oh, let us do what these guys are doing. So you said I'm not addressing it. I'm addressing it, but I'm not only addressing it, I'm addressing it intelligently. Not just throwing words out there, intelligently. The reason they can do it is they did what, and they had a healthcare system that protect. And I tell you what, I'm going to continue with the notion there, but I want to show you I want to play a video here, brothers and sisters. Because this Daniel Ledo went ahead and started. Let's talk about American exceptionalism, okay? Vamos a hablar del excepcionalismo de América. Vamos a hablar de eso ahora. Let's talk about it. I am an American citizen who want to make this country not exceptional, but exceptionally good to its people. Exceptionally good to us all. But we're not. Check this out, and then we'll take that on the other side. Well, let me frame it first of all, because I'm going to turn this into a little cut afterwards. What we have is Chris Hayes did a piece on how badly the United States does compared to all the other industrialized nations, other wealthy nations. We have been doing a whole lot better, but because we've been infested by those who are reveling in their ignorance, in their willful ignorance. It's not that they're genetically or somehow ignorant, because nobody really is, but because of that, this is what they have allowed to occur. And yes, we blame them for it.
We are just days away from what would have once been considered an unfathomable toll of 900,000 Americans killed by the coronavirus pandemic. Take a look at this chart, which shows deaths among large, wealthy countries since the start of the pandemic, and some small ones as well. The U.S. is now at the top of the chart, overtaking Belgium and the U.K. with the highest COVID death toll relative to our population. Why is our death toll so high? Why is it so much worse here? Well, for one, just look at the vaccination rate of the same 10 countries who top the COVID death chart. You can see the U.S. is considerably behind in the percentage of the population who's fully vaccinated, and considerably behind on booster shots. That's not likely to change. According to the latest Morning Consult survey, nearly 20% of those polled are just... We are just days away from what would have once been considered an unfathomable toll of 900,000 Americans killed by the coronavirus pandemic. Take a look at this chart, which shows deaths among large, wealthy countries since the start of the pandemic, and some small ones as well. The U.S. is now at the top of the chart, overtaking Belgium and the U.K. with the highest... We are just days away from what would have once been considered an unfathomable toll of 900,000 Americans killed by the coronavirus pandemic. Take a look at this chart, which shows deaths among large, wealthy countries since the start of the pandemic, and some small ones as well. The U.S. is now at the top of the chart, overtaking Belgium and the U.K. with the highest COVID death toll relative to our population. Why is our death toll so high? Why is it so much worse here? Well, For one, just look at the vaccination rate of the same 10 countries who top the COVID death chart. You can see the US is considerably behind in the percentage of the population who's fully vaccinated and considerably behind on booster shots. That's not likely to change. According to the latest Morning Consult survey, nearly 20% of those polled are just unwilling to get the vaccine. And vaccination rates aside, our population is already just much less healthy, more at risk than people in comparable rich countries. Researchers of the Commonwealth Fund found that countries like Australia, Germany, and Canada, clustered in the center of this chart, have much better healthcare systems than the US, down in the bottom right there. And that's even though the US spends way more on healthcare. Our life expectancy is lower than other rich countries. It has been that way for decades before COVID. The pandemic is exposing the dark parts of American exceptionalism, and we now have the highest death rate in one of the richest countries in the world. What does this say about us? About what kind of country, we are?
And that is something that we have to take into account, right? One, the reason this is true is one, we have a lousy healthcare system because it's mostly to make money for a few. Numero dos, we have a population that is very unhealthy, again, because we allow our corporations to poison our own citizens because money, again, comes ahead of everything else. And numero tres, we are happy to preach ignorance. We are happy to preach ignorance and much more. I just saw something flash on another screen where Daniel Ledo said he complained about the incompetence of my broadcasting methodology. Thank you so kindly. I made a mistake. Last thing I knew, I was human. And by the way, do you really give that kind of a notion to Fox News when they have the same types of mistakes that I just made when I normally would let that slide, but I want to show many people how we get judgmental dependent on who the host is, dependent on what the platform is. Though, maybe I'm an incompetent broadcaster. I'll take that. But, you know, broadcast is not the real thing. I'm trying to get the word out. I'm trying to get us somewhere. Anyhow, my brothers and sisters, 81 million votes for the most unpopular president ever, Biden. Well, we'll go to another one. Every case says, Egberto, your comparison based on more people voted period, that is why the increase just the same as the increase for Dems, more votes than ever before. No, I guess you missed what I'm saying. I am saying the amount of people that are willing to vote for a degenerate. That's all I'm saying. There are 70 million American citizens that were willing to vote for a degenerate human being to lead the most powerful country in the world. A president that subsequently attempted a coup on the United States, a president that subsequently was anti-democratic, which we all knew from the beginning. Let's remember that. Sarah B says, my dad just hates Hillary. Eric Hayes says, Hillary is comparable to a bad man you speak about. No. I'm not a fan of Hillary. But again, Mr. Trump is just well, I'm not going to even further that again. All right, Egberto, that is you. Not everyone lives like you and shares the same experience. I understand that. But what I'm saying is there are certain things that supersedes how you live. Raping a woman supersedes whether you're Republican or Democrat. All right? Having a whole lot of baby mamas supersedes whether you're Republican or Democrat, especially when you speak about family values and chastity and all those things that the people who support him does, right? Calling people, holding women by their groins or holding women by their private parts and bragging about it, and then having the evangelical people support you says more about the evangelicals than it says about Donald Trump, the degenerate. Understand that, people. That is why the faith have been lost in all of you. Again, that 70 million people supported a degenerate speaks more about the people than it does about the man, because we know who the man is. Daniel Ledo says, Egberto's butt is so virtuous. His butt alone has saved unknown hundreds of people. Actually, not hundreds, but I do receive some emails that says, man, in these heavy times, thank you for doing what you're doing. and get a lot of support from people like that. I do get that. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to say that without just blurting it out. Patrick's Time says John Hopkins data shows lockdown had no benefit. Okay, I'll read it. Data shows that jab doesn't prevent you from testing positive. What's the problem if you test positive if you're not gonna die? But anyhow, Peggy Lopez says 2010, I attended an event at a progressive bookstore in Reno, Nevada. They event with many authors of books banned in high schools. Most covered sex education and homosexual development. Muchísimas gracias por eso. That is perfecto. All right, continuing, we also have the official narrative of collapse in Patrick's Time. No, Patrick, I mean, you may want to feel that way if you don't understand the scientific nature of concepts, but who am I to question you, sir? Deb Denny says, are you hiding it? Why didn't you speak up when it went to court? If you don't have it or can't find it, don't claim it. Perhaps no evidence means no evidence, believe it or not. You know, it is funny, right? Because even Donald Trump's own judges, the ones that he assigned, not one, including the Supreme Court, threw him out. But again, wishful thinking and willful ignorance is a thing. People that willfully want to be hoodwinked. You can't help those who willfully want to be hoodwinked. Vax killed my uncle and sister murderers. Oh, really? I kind of doubt that. The duck that quack says the jab stops you from dying 96% of the time. You know, let me tell you something. Thank you for pointing that out, duck that quacks. But again, there are people that they bask in their ignorance, right? But it doesn't matter. I still want to save them. Still do. All right. Let's see what else we got here. The duck that quack says West gotta go. No proof Vax killed. Okay, I'm not gonna go there. Deb Denif, last scan for proof. Thank you, Egberto. I think I know what you're thanking me for, brother Hayes. Let's see what else we got here. Man, you guys have a lot of things when I'm coming down. I'm not reading the trolling type messages today because that's exactly what they are. And the last time I did, for the last time I read out the lies that some people have said, I had to go to YouTube and fight to get the video back up. But anyhow, let's continue here. Para ver, we're moving on. Deb Denny says the virus and itself says the not use its data to make assumptions. It's voluntary recording data collection site. It doesn't prove anything. Thank you for pointing that out, Deb. I'll have to go look at that as well. Let's see what else we have here. Para ver, coming down. We got a couple of trolls in here that are really writing a whole lot. Charlie Lindahl, how you doing, my brother Charlie, says, did you see the GoFundMe for Officer LeMay? The officer who died of COVID after telling Governor Inslee to kiss his ass? Yes, I did see the GoFundMe. I even went to the GoFundMe. When Lawrence O'Donnell started his show, he told people to, in as much as the family who did that, the officer got killed from his ignorance, from his willful ignorance. They set up a GoFundMe, and he said, all right, I want you guys, he asked his audience to go ahead and do the GoFundMe. So, as it turns out, immediately after Lawrence did that, 10,000, in a matter of 15 minutes, the fund increased by 10,000. And it just showed the quality of people that we have on the left. That's all I'm going to say there. You write much, but prove nothing. Yeah, that's Patrick's Time. Patrick is a good troll. I hope he listens to some of what we say because some of it may sink in. Eric Hayes says, speaking to the high numbers, what is the level of being healthy to in these deaths? Again, read it up. The paper by John Hopkins is a literature matter view not based on real health outcomes by economic viewers. The meta-analysis seems to remove inconvenient data from countries like China and Italy. Until this is reviewed, it would not put a lot of veracity to the results. Thank you for letting me know that, Norman. I'll scan it now instead of reading it. Daniel Lado says, love the professional polished look of PDR. Super competent broadcasting. Laughing out loud. Thank you so kindly. I really appreciate that, Mr. Lado. Let's see what else we got here. The Duck Pizza says, Sicilian like a pizza. All right, continuing the pandemic. From Eric Hayes, the pandemic has also made this country poorer via raise in debt and destruction of economy and its future. So let me see. So what would it be if everybody went to work and a lot more people died? Let's see. Would the country have been poorer? Oh no. That's I love the way you guys say things, man. I just love it. All right. Eric Hayes says, Egberto, you are good. I would hope so. Could you tell me what you mean though? Or is that a jab at me or something? I hope I'm good, but you're good too. All my audience, they're good. West is good. Eric is good. Patrick's time is good. Michael Rudlin, Tom C is good. Norman Reynolds is good. Denny's good. All my peeps are great. I love you all. The duck that quacks good. E2247's good too. All right, May Wood is here and she's good too. He's good too. Hello everyone, back home and just tested negative. Let's all give brother Maywood a big clap. Hooray. He's no longer positive on COVID. Thank you for keeping us informed. Norman Reynolds says the GOP in Virginia demonstrate. Thank you for reminding me about that tweet you sent me. The GOP in Virginia demonstrate deciding to freeze the minimum wage, which is insufficient to maintaining a living. What is important to the GOP? Punching the poor and workers of the country. Voting for the GOP as a middle class or poor person is voting against your best interest. It's a clear and present danger to vote for Republicans whose only interest is to ensure they can do exactly what not Alan Greenspan, but the father of capitalism, Milton Friedman of the Chicago told them to do. Maximize the profits, la ganancia. Maximize the profits of whom? The wealthy and the rich. But there's a caveat to that. And make the poor and those that depend on you believe that you have something special they don't. Why you should allow them to whip your butt. Even though everything the wealthy makes is off your back. I want you to name me any wealthy person. Anyone, any of these billionaires, and I can prove to you that they didn't do it. Absent you, they could not. But you see, we have been taught to believe that somehow these guys can live in a vacuum. Like these wealthy people, hey, I designed ComDRV. I allow computers to speak to satellites and RS-232s and to gas pumps and all of that. I did it. Hell no. You all did it. You created great schools, man. Until we learn that what we've learned to do is socialize the wealthy and capitalize the middle class and the poor. The wealthy has turned you into a stock. That's what they've turned you into. The wealthy has turned, the wealthy has turned you into a stock, a piece of paper that they can sell. They're not selling your bodies anymore to a person. Your body is now is actually incorporated into the stock instrument. And that instrument is traded. So they don't trade your bodies anymore. They trade stock based on what your body produces. And nobody wants to admit it. They don't teach you that in college, right? They don't teach you that whenever you see the stock market, they're trading you. That's what's getting traded. You're getting traded. You just sit there like, and when you own, so I mean, we have to understand how the concepts work. And when we understand the concepts work, I wrote an article called Middle Class Held Hostage. Look it up on the internet. It actually went viral. Middle Class Held Hostage. A lot of people then ripped off the name and that kind of stuff, but that's what I named it, right? And the idea was the people that I value the most are teachers, right? Because they're the ones who promote everything and make sure it goes forward. That's who I adore teachers. That's why whenever I hear that teachers vote Republicans against their own interests, it drives me crazy. But that's for another day. Norman says I read that already. Deb Denny says, Patrick Times, many entities still experiment on animals. Why call out one person? Why not call out 3M, Earwick, Amity, Arm & Hammer, Band-Aid? Oh, you are such a smart cookie, Deb. Thank you, girl. Wes says, most people less test positive but never know. Haha, I agree. E2247 says, when we try to silence history and stop talking about the things that have actually happened, we are bound to repeat it. Absolutely right. The duck that quack says the Republican very closely resemble Nazi fascism. They are Nazi fascism. E2247 says this is, and by the way, when I talk about that, I'm talking about Republican politicians, okay? This is something that's so relevant when we stop teaching our kids and talking with our peers about history that people have truly, truly lived. The duck that quacks. Let's see, what time is it? Oh, it's 4:44 already. My God. It's time for you to hear about my book, isn't it? So let's go ahead and do that. Then I'll come and do my ask, and then we'll finish the program. I'm Egberto Willis, as host of Politics Done Right, a progressive radio media show on Pacifica Network's KPFT 90.1 FM Houston that engages all ideologies. I found that our political angst isn't mostly ideological. There is a well-designed effort by many in power to control us. If we are at each other's throats, we are less likely to demand our economic and local wishes. In that light, I wrote 3 books. I wrote the first one titled, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, to describe the entire economy in a manner we can all understand. It highlights why it was designed to pilfer most as it empowers a few, the chosen. The second book, titled, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, take it to the next level. After understanding how the system pilfers, it is incumbent that we can speak to our peers to empower a change. The third book, How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, gives us a place to land. After learning about our economy that is dysfunctional for most and learning how to engage the other side, we point out what would make an economy that works for all. Each book stands on its own, but together they provide the full picture. Please consider getting one or more. You will undoubtedly learn, be entertained, and help us continue the mission with our blogs, articles, videos, and books. All right, folks, please remember this. Please remember, if you want to support the show, and I hope you want to support the show, please, if you're on YouTube, click that join button. When you click that join button, I give another video that says, hey, this is the reason that it's worth supporting what we do. Also, if you're on YouTube, or rather, if you are on Facebook or some other network, please go ahead and consider going to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, and I'm trying to get that link in the feed right now. Go to politicsdoneright.com. Let me get the right screen on. There you go. politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Alternatively, we also need patrons. So you can go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Likewise, you can go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. PayPal is spelled P-A. Well, you know how to spell PayPal. Now, if you want to go ahead and get the books, why not get all 3? I promise you, you will enjoy the books. I mean, they're not sad books. They're just they just bring everything to the fold. You can get the books at politicsdoneright.com/books. politicsdoneright.com/books. Guaranteed you're gonna like it. Check out our new store. Our store, we went ahead and went to another store temporarily. Not temporarily, actually, we went to another storefront, that is. politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com. So have a whole lot more material at that particular store. Please, please, please check it out. And again, to get our books, did I put the books on there already? I think I did. Yes, I did. You can find all the different forms of support by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. It says something went wrong. There we go. politicsdoneright.com/support. Okay, let's continue. Continuing with the program, let me scroll back up to get all you good people's work here. Para ver dónde comencé. All right, let's see. Daniel Edo said, okay, Egberto, the gatekeeper of what is in the best interest of everybody. Tell me, what are the interests of 50-year-old white married business owner? What's the interest? To make money, right? And not only to make money, to save their families, to feed their families, etc. But let me tell you something else about the business owner. And I don't mean, you said white married business owner. I am going to take the white out, and I'm going to take the married out. I'm going to say, what's the interest of the 50-year-old business owner? Race does not matter. Gender does not matter. None of that matters. That's the problem, right? That's the problem. Now, let me tell you something about the business owner, though. If the business owner has to pay less than a living wage, he doesn't have a viable business. If you can't pay a wage, work your ass off in that business. Let me give myself as an example. I had my software company, and one of the reasons I contracted everything out to different companies to do the book, I wrote all the books, I did everything, but I contracted it out. Amazon does the book. I have a magazines that I print in, etc. But I wrote my own ads on all of that. And people say, Egbert, why don't you get some help? And I'm like, because I want, and this is when I had a Willie's computer software company. I said, if I hire somebody, they have to make a good living. And not only that, they have to have healthcare, since our government is pathetic with providing healthcare, whatever. So since I cannot afford to give that right now, based on the standard of living I wanted to get out of my company, I simply worked the hours and hours and hours to get the job done. I wasn't going to pay somebody slave labor. Now I have Politics Done Right, which is an activist journalist organization. The income level is 1/10, and I'm not kidding you, 1/10 of what I made before. Okay? And people say, well, get people to volunteer for you. Well, if somebody really wants to volunteer, I say, okay, but I feel that's sort of a guilt. If you have a business that you're living off of, when you ask somebody to come into that business and work on less than a living wage, you are asking that person to subsidize your better standard of living than they could have. And that is patently unfair. But that is what small businesses would like to do. It is patently unfair. Okay, so I knew where your question was going, Daniel Ledo. Like, oh, because we want to have this high wage for people, etc. No, if somebody is working, they should be getting a living wage. And people say, oh, well, it's only kids who do the jobs. So what? Who cares? If they're doing a day's work, they're working. We don't pay them based on them being kids. Egberto, pass time to post your link. Thank you so kindly, Denny. I appreciate it. All right, let's see what else. Let's see. Bruce Fowler said George Soros. I don't know what that was for, but Nanette Birdsmith says, Egberto, sometime take a look at the Great Reset Theory. Interesting read. I gotta check that out. If you're telling me Nanette Birdsmith, I gotta check it out. The Duck That Quack says, don't get the vax if you want. I really don't care. I do care. Get the vax, please. Please get the vax. I don't want you to die. All right? All right, let's see. Eric Hayes, call out Fauci that orders to have those animals to be experimented on. Okay. Why would I do that? Isn't that the standard procedure right now? Would you like him to experiment on human beings? I mean, I don't know. You tell me. Tell me, what would you prefer? All right, Patrick Symes says cancer is up. Okay, your point being? All right, let's see what else we got here. Ashley, my daughter, says, to Ledo, being white, staying married, and keeping the business, keeping his or her money. LOL. Baby doll, my sweet daughter, I know exactly where you're going, girlfriend. All right, let's see. E2247, not good. For the third consecutive year, the Bulletin's Doomsday Clock shows 100 seconds to midnight. I know. All right, let's see what else we have before I get to my other video. I am not going to have a lot of time to set it up, but I'm going to try to set it up. Let's see what else I got here. If I miss your info or whatever, forgive me. Let's see what else we got here. Deb Dennis, that's Patrick's time. Tom C says the GOP is experimenting on their own constituents by minimizing the dangers of the pandemic. Unvaccinated, unmasked Americans are lab rats for quack doctors and politicians on Facebook and Fox News. You have gotten the comment of the day, Tom C. And you know what? I'm copying that comment right now and putting it inside of my oh man, I love that. In fact, I'm going to quote that on Twitter today, brother. I got me the smartest damn listeners, bar none. Okay, Tom C, I'm leaving it at Tom C so I can remember it's you who it came from. Brother Tom, that goes up in a tweet and so forth. I love that. Okay, by the way, Tom, is that your comment or did you rip that off from somebody else? I like to give due where it's due. All right, let's see. Para ver, where else are we go? But before I go to my video, let's see. Peggy Lopez says, prior to the Association of Molecular Pathology versus Myriad Genetics, Inc., more than 4,300 human genes were patented in U.S., so corporations are still working on ownership of human population. And you know, we got to blow that out of the... Covered that in my book as I see it as well. And the one was the BRCA BRCA gene for breast cancer. It's what they try to do. Egberto, please keep teaching. Thank you, my dear friend Peggy Lopez, Deb, Denny, para ver. Okay. All right. I think I can get another video in. And this time, I'm going to try my best not to disappoint Brother Ledo, because I think this time I will likely be able... Oh, look at this. I just fired off Adobe Premiere. Why would I do that? I hope it doesn't screw things up too badly, but we'll see. Anyhow, Brother Ledo, this one is for you. Chuck, you know, our Republicans right now have been having a fascination. They have been having a fascination with El Señor Putin, right? So even now, if you go ahead and listen to some of them on their networks, they love Putin. So I don't know where they stand right now. So we had a Republican talking head comes on and he tries to say how badly El Señor Biden is doing, right? Forgetting that Tucker Carlson is just about a sycophant for Russia. And you know what? Finally, I think Chuck Todd and McCaskill got him on it. So let's take a listen to that and we'll take it on the other side.
Steve, it feels like we're trying to figure out, is Putin a rational actor?
Right. That's a good question. I mean, I think when we look at this from our perspective, we look at the things he's doing and say this doesn't make sense. And you see a lot of that in reporting the media. But go back and look at what Vladimir Putin has been saying over all these years. Go back to speeches that he was giving in the mid-aughts. He was telling us what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. He wants to reconstitute the Russian Empire, the old Soviet Union. When you have autocratic leaders like that tell you what they want to do, you're smart to pay attention. The problem, I think, from the Biden administration's, from my perspective about the Biden administration, is this alarm comes a little bit too late. It's not like these 100,000 troops just went to the border. They've been there for a long time, and you've had, I think, Republicans and conservatives raising alarms about what Putin was up to, pointing out the kinds of assets, military assets, that were in position months ago. Mm-hmm. And the Biden administration seems to be just catching up.
Claire?
Well, first of all, I think Putin, you have to assume he's rational. He may be irrational. And if I were to look, I would say he's trying to mine the divisions within NATO right now. Right. He's trying to exacerbate the Germany being an outlier and being worried about being all in against him. He wants to highlight Macron making noises.
That's the assumption that he's rational.
Yeah, that he's trying to make NATO not a strong alliance by playing this card at this time. And the other thing I gotta say is, you said Republicans. The other thing that's happening here, it is amplifying a divide in the Republican Party. Right. Yeah. I mean, when you've got people on the Fox cable news network.
I mean, it's Tucker Carlson. Look, he's being used. I could show you some clips here. He's being used on RT. He's being used by RT, the propaganda arm of Putin.
Yes.
All the time now. Here, it's
the Republicans are loving up on Putin right now. A bunch of them.
So now we have that Tucker Carlson is nothing more than the propaganda arm of Russia in the United States. Who would have ever thought the Republican Party that always used to talk about law and order and about patriotism? What are the things that they've done since Trump has come into fruition? One, they became sycophants of Putin. They become sycophants of everything Russia. And two, they attempted to overthrow the United States government. Wow. Wow. How low has Trump taken the party of Lincoln? It is simply amazing. I had another video to show you, but I'll have to forego that one, and maybe I'll have better news on the Texas front. Daniel Ledo to Mr. Wood says again, you go to the material, money, business, goods. Yes, those are my interests, but not my best interests. I focus not on the material, but much more on the eternal values that it's belief. I don't know what the hell that means, Daniel Ledo, but I'll try to read it in a better context some other time. But we are coming close to the end of the program. Once again, I want to ask my great brothers and sisters to support the program. If you are on YouTube right now, why don't you just go ahead and click that join button, become a part of our PDR posse. If you're not on YouTube and some other channel, you can go ahead and go to politicsandright.com/YouTube, politicsandright.com/YouTube. Alternatively, support us on politicsandright.com/Patreon, politicsandright.com/Patreon. And of course, we love PayPal, politicsandright.com/PayPal. If you want the all-encompassing way to support us, go to politicsandright.com/support. And don't forget to get our books. Where do you get our books? You get our books at politicsandright.com/books. Folks, I'm telling you, Egberto, that you have no idea what I consider my best interest. Oh, you bet your life I know. Not because what you consider your best interest more than likely is not your best interest based on what I see that you know or what you say. But hey, it's your life. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.